this is my project EasyBudget, and first of all I want to talk about the setup of backend and front-end code. And so in the backend there's like first there are like models like these are the these will be the tables in the database, and then these have like they have like attributes that will be the columns of the tables, and they're like entry, category models, AI chat account, and so on. And another layer is the controller layer. Controller layer are the ones where which will be handling the API URL of the API calls. Yeah, and it handled by the controller. And then there are like service layer. Service layer is the main layer where it will be handling all the business logics. And then repository layer is for connecting the Spring Data JPA with databases. And then there are like DTO, data transfer objects, for other request response objects, and the mappers are for changing between the model entities and then DTO objects. That an exception are for handling the exception, and then there are like tests. Yep. And for the front end, these pages are mainly the ones which are for the UI, layouts and design and structure. And then there are like slices. These are the one which will be calling the APIs from the backend. So let's first go to the login page. In the login page here, the first feature I would like to talk about is like a guest user feature. So if the users don't want to put in the email and password and they just want to test as a guest user, you can just log in as a guest user. It is handled here as when I start the backend server, it will automatically populate the database with the guest user with the username password, and then it will also populate some data like entries, account, and categories for the guest user, so the user can log in and test the features without giving their credentials. But they can also provide the email and password to log in and use as a user. So for this authentication and authorization function, I'd like to show the architecture for that authentication and authorization. This is how I handle the authentication system in my application. So first of all, when the client comes to the protected URL, it will go through the security filter change, and it will go through the authentication token filter, and the JWT will be extracted by the JWT utility, and it will validate it. If it's invalid, it will go to the authentication entry point, and it will reject it. And if it's valid, it will go to the custom user detail service, and it will set the authentication to the security context holder, and it will go to the controller. So I'll show from the code point. So like I showed, first is it will go to the I'll show like authentication controller. When it comes to the authentication controller, if it's like sign in and sign up, there's no JWT yet. So these authentication points URLs and the test URL, these are they don't check they don't check the authentication, and it permits all. But if other user come from the other URLs that are like protected URLs, it will go to the go through the authentication token filter. Here I put the authentication token filter, put it into the Spring security filter chain, and then in that authentication filter, as you can see in here, I will use the JWT utility by using the JSON Web Token library, and it will generate the JWT token. You can also extract the JWT token, and you can also validate the JWT token. By using the JWT utility, my filter will validate the JWT, or it will pass the JWT, and it will validate the filtering, and then it will put that user into the section. To put the user into the section, I use that. I have to load the user from the JWT by using the ID and username, and it will be loaded into the section here. Here is like creating user, and then it will authenticate user here. It will authenticate that user, and then it will put that user into that security context. And then when I try to get the authenticated user, you can see that I'll get that context back from the security context holder. This is actually extracting the currently authenticated user. Yeah. Yeah, that's how the authentication is handled. And then I'll just log in as a guest user. Yeah, as you can see, some data are automatically populated for the user, for the guest user, and then there are accounts, and there are categories, there are entries, graphs, history. It's loading a little bit. Yeah. Okay, for example, like as start, there are account, category, entries. Like these are mainly the main function of these ones are the CRED. Like you can add new entries, add new categories, add new accounts. And one of the features I want to show is like when I'm creating a new account or editing the old account, you cannot update or include the balance because of the logic, because it wouldn't make sense if you're directly editing the balance of the account. It should always come from the entry. So either it's the income or outcome. When the change happens, it will also change the balance of the account. So let's test it. Like master 2 is added, and I can delete it. When I delete it, when an account or a category is deleted, all of its related entry will also be deleted. So it is a very dangerous feature. So I have to check it. I have to double check it before delete it. Yeah. Adding the category is also the same, and I just add a new salary. Say first salary, and as you can see, it is added here. And let's say it is too low. I'll edit it. I can view them, and I can edit them. So as you can see, this automatically populated with the origin data, and yes, you can see it's updated. So let's see from the code. as you can see, I added this. As you can see, I added these account balance services and account check services as well instead of just account service, because some functions, some methods are actually depending from both sides. The account is depending to the user or entry service, and entry service is also depending to the account service in some points. So it is causing, as I've written in the report, as it caused some dependency cycle error. So to avoid that, I use these account balance service. I separate them into the account balance service and account check service. It is also good so that I don't need to like write them again and again. And account check service like mainly checking if the account exists, if the account is valid. And account balance services like I've shown, one when a new entry is added or like the old entry is updated, the related accounts balance should also be updated, right? So this is the place where it is happening. So if an old account is updated, also the balance of the account, all entry is updated, also the balance of the account should also be updated. If it's deleted, it should also update the balance, and if it's a new entry is added, it should also update the balance of the account. And most of things happening in these account service and category service are just CRED. It's like creating a category, reading it, getting it, and updating it and deleting it. The important thing here is like whenever I'm deleting a category or I'm deleting an account, it should also delete the related accounts or sorry, related entries. Yeah, I have to also delete the related entries. Yeah, it's the same as well. It's like account check service, separating the function, and also for checking if the account is entry is valid, it says this. Another part is the graph part, graph and history part. Yeah, and graph part, I can like select any specific month. Other month doesn't have data because I'll populate the current month of the current month for the data, and then I can also select a specific year, or I can also see within the range of the years. I can go back to any years, and then yeah, and then for the history, for the history is the place where the main filtering and sorting of all the entries will be happening here. So I can filter all the types or the accounts, and I can sort them by cost. I can sort them by date, you know, and then I can sort them by any ascending or descending order. I can change the start date, end date. Yeah, yeah, that's the main filtering place, and then this is the graph place. So for the graph from the front end, I use this eChat library. Yeah, I use the eChat library, so I can automatically show the pie chart, and pie graph and bar graph. Yeah, I can show the pie chart and bar chart. So the option, and then for the filtering from the backend, entry. The one thing I would like to show is that as you can see, there's a lot of filtering going on. So there are a lot of filtering for both graphs and history, right? Yeah, for filtering both for graphs and history going on. So I grouped them and uh, I grouped them and I used this function called entry specification. So that by using this, I can like group them into the single separate layer where I can manage all the filtering. I can filter by user, I can filter by type, I can filter by count, category, date, and I can manage all of them here from here. So that whenever I want them from any places from the service layer, I can just call that specification layer and I can put them. It is really dynamic, and so it's really easy to use. So for example, like for filtering entries for the graph, it is nearly the same. It is only different for each like different types of filtering for month, each specific month, year, or like range of years, so that I can filter them by graphs and I can change them into correct format of the lookup date, and I can put it into the specification and I can easily filter the entries, and I send them back as I want to the front end. Yeah, that's the main filtering part. Another big part, important part is the AI chatbot. Okay, so as you can see in the entries, there are some data. Yeah, before showing the code, let's just test the functionality. Where did I spend the most? Let's ask the question. Yeah, as you can see, it's at the like 50 and on food. Let's check if I'm correct. Let's go back to the history and then I just see. Uh, I can also view from the entries. And as you can see, the most thing I spent is correct. It's £50 on the food. Okay, so what if I add new outcome? Let's say entertainment, like Visa card. I spent 100 on the movie night. Let's see. I decided entertainment as a movie night. That's £100. So let's ask the AI again. Yeah, now it correctly say that I spent the most on the movie night for £100. So the answer like update specifically based on the based on users data. So to correctly do that, I'll show how this is happening. So before going to the code, I'd like to show the sequence diagram first, so it's clearer to understand. So first, as you can see from the sequence diagram, when a user create a new entry or edit a existing old entry, I will always go to the generate an embedding from the Gemini API, and it will return a vector, and I will store that vector into the entry embedding the same way I store the entry into the database, so that when the client when the sorry when the client send a message, I will send that message to the Gemini API and I'll get the vector back, and I will do the semantic search between that message embedding and entry embeddings, and I will extract the top 5 most relevant entries, and then I will put that into the instruction, and I will send the prompt to the OpenAI API, and then OpenAI will send back the response. So that I will save that into the chat history and I will send that back to the client. So let's see what it would look like from the code. So yes, you can see here there's entry embedding, right? So an entry embedding is always connected in one-to-one to the entry, and there's, you can see here is like the Postgres doesn't include the vector type automatically, so I have to use the Postgres vector extension. And then this type, the type of the column is not as usual as well. The vector are in the type of the array of float. So the vector type I'm currently using is like with 1538 dimension. And then so let's check the service. So yeah, whenever getting an embedding, I'm going to the Google API Gemini embedding model, and I go to this path, and then I will get the embedding array path that is in vector. Yeah, so this is how I get an embedding. And then whenever I create an entry embedding, as you can see, I go and get the embedding, I get the embedding back, and then I save it into the database. Whenever I update an entry, I also need to update the entry embedding. Whenever I delete an entry, I also need to delete that entry embedding. This is where extracting the top relevant entries will happen. So maybe let's see from how the user how the user will interact. So when the user chat, you'll go to this AI chat controller, you'll go to chat, and it will go to AI chat service. And in the AI chat service, as you can see in the service, I have this instruction that I have to go to the Open AI API. And after that, as you can see, there is I'm saying that it is like this URL. I give some instruction to say that this you are an advisor, financial advisor, be polite and friendly. This is a currency type. Like this, I'm saying like no suggestion from a follower question because I want to control token a little bit better because free tier tokens are like really low. And then another thing I have to include is that I have to include the relevant entries, right? So as you can see how I'm getting the relevant entry is I'm getting by this embedding service, I get that top K relevant entries, and then when I get that back, I'll put that into the instruction, and then I'll send that to the then I send that to the OpenAI API, and it will give me back a response. These are the metadata to check how much token am I using, and then I will get a response back. This is for creating a chat history so that I can save it into the database and just get in the chat history and delete in the chat history. So let's go to the embedding service, how it is happening. So as you can see, sorry, I forgot to show this one. Yeah, when getting the top K relevant entries, I also need to give two things. There's like how many entries do I want, and I also need to give it the message, the message coming from the client, right, the user, right. So, well, how I do is here is that I get that user, I get the user prompt, and I get that embedding from I send that prompt to the Gemini API, and I get that embedding, message embedding, and I get that prompt embedding, and then I extract the top K relevant. So how do I get that? Yes, I'll go to the repository, entry embedding repository. This is here. And then as you can see, the like normal repository like Spring Data JPA already include like default functions, but it doesn't have like default function for the vector type. So I have to manually write the raw SQL. And what is this is doing is I'm doing a semantic search between the embedding of the message embedding and the message, the prompt embedding, the message embedding, and then the entry embeddings. And I'm getting doing the semantic search, and I get the top five most, extract the top five most relevant entries, and then I just give it back to the service. Yeah, and then I return it back to the AI chat service, and then I put that relevant entries into the instruction, and then I send to the OpenAPI, and as I've shown, it will send me back the response. Yeah. Yeah, whenever I am creating a new entry, as you can see here, I have to create an embedding as well, because I also need to create the entry embedding. And when I'm updating the old entry, I also need to update the old entry embedding. Whenever I'm deleting an entry, I also need to delete the entry embedding as well. Yes. That's how the AI chat service is happening, so that it can not only it will act like a general you can have a general conversation as a financial advisor. It will also give you advice based on your specific spending history. By using this semantic search and AI semantic search of these embedding services, you can get a specific response based on your spending history. Another thing is setting. In the setting, you can change to the currency type and your theme. Yeah, you can change your themes and types. Yeah, yeah. And about us just some sample data, so we look like some professional website. Yeah, that's how the main features are done. And the things yeah, and this is the testing part. There's a unit testing for some important parts modules, like for account balance check, I have to check that if the account balance is also updating, if there's an increase or decrease in the entry, if the entry is updating or new entry is updated or deleting. And this for AI chat service, testing the AI chat service, and I set up the mock, and then check the return and save in the history, and then like checking the history, remove the chat, and then is checking the category service for the basic CRED, and also if it is like removing the related, deleting the categories. So yeah, checking the basis features, and testing entry services also the same. Yeah, it checked if it's like working correctly for saving, updating, deleting, and filtering. And for the UN service, it's actually checking the JWT token function if it is working correctly. Yeah, save and return the JWT token, storing the exception, if it is found, or getting the current authenticated user and stuff, and to see if it's all working correctly, we can test it. Yeah, all text correct. Yeah, and for the deployment, the backend is deployed on an AWS EC2 instance, as you can see on this instance. And I can show that if it is working correctly, I can connect to with SSH. Yeah, and then I'll check the Docker. Yeah, as you can see, the Spring app is working, and then PG Vector, which is the database, is also working inside the EC2, inside the Docker container. The front end is deploying on the Vassal here, and it is working correctly here. Yeah, it's yeah, yeah, it's working correctly here. Yeah, and for the checking the API, I use Postman. Yeah, I think that's it.